All right, it's tomato time. It's time to plant these tomatoes, boy. We're gonna get some seeds going. It's a good day. I'm here to tell you, anytime I can plant tomato seeds, I love it. I don't even eat tomatoes and I like growing them. But when it comes to seeds and seedlings, there is something that we need to talk about, and that's really the question of up-potting. I think people are up-potting way too much. I told y'all we were leveling up and we were going to be doing a lot of seeding, so we've got a lot started. I've already seeded everything. I figured I would spare you the pain of watching me do it again and again and again. But for those that are new to the channel, I will show you my process very quickly so that you know how to do if you feel like doing it like I do. First of all, this is no specific method. This is just starting seeds. What I do is I put my seed mix in, I get it really wet, and the way I can tell is if when I go to put my divots in to lay my seeds in, if it squeezes out like a sponge out of the bottom, it's wet enough. Pre-wet, then you come through and you just lightly put dimples in. I lay the seeds on top and then I top them with perlite. Easy peasy. And I don't do vermiculite, I only do perlite, so don't even ask and just Google it, you'll figure it out. I've talked about it plenty. But when it comes to these kinds of things, up-potting is a big thing that people like to do. And I used to up-pot all the time, and now I don't up-pot almost at all. Just a few crops, and tomatoes is one of the ones that I up-pot for the obvious reason that if you bury the stem, you get more roots. So it's a way to get more roots going and get that plant really growing. So when you put it in, it's actively pushing new roots and it can go. But as a whole, up-potting should be a tool, not a crutch. And what that means is if you're planting and you've already planted and your plant's getting too big, you shouldn't use up-potting as a method to keep it inside longer because it's not time to put it outside. Up-potting should be used in order to get more roots in preparation to go outside. And there's a big difference in that. Just to go over what we've started here, this is another tray of all the flowers we did in a previous video. They just started to germinate, so we went ahead and just said, it's go time. And this will be the final planting for these. All of these are good, and these are going to go into the greenhouse. All of these are going to go into our house on our seed starting shelf. So what we have here is we have 3 rows of Roma tomatoes, 2 rows of Ace 55, a row of cherry tomatoes, 1 row of red snapper tomatoes, 1 row of roadster, 1 row of Cherokee purple, and then a row of eggplants. The reason why you're seeing 1 row, I don't eat a lot of these. And we didn't have a lot. These are leftover, the roadsters and the red snappers from last year. Wanted to grow them again, just use up the seeds. So that's why there is only 1 row. I don't even grow Cherokee purples. They are an indeterminate tomato that really don't do well in my area, but a lot of people like them, and I know people that want them. So I'm growing a couple of those. And the eggplants, we only grow like 1 or 2 plants a year, but we just filled up the row. I've got people that want to buy some of those as well. And cherry tomatoes, I only grow 1 plant a year, but again, we've got people that want to buy them. So we do that. Our Roma tomatoes we'd use for canning. So there's a lot of canning that goes on here. So we use those for that. And then our Ace 55s are big determinant slicers. So determinant, indeterminate, and then eggplant. And so we really focus on determinants because of our weather here. Mark this down in your calendars right now if you don't believe me. July 13th, my tomatoes will be done. My first round of tomatoes, they will have disease, they will be beat up, they will be yellow, they will be on the way out. Every year it's that way, and that's why we do determinants, because we can get that big flush of tomatoes all at once and then we can use them. If we have to can our Ace 55s, which are a big slicer, then we'll absolutely can those. But we'd prefer to do the Romas. They do a better job and they're more pasty, less water content. They're more meaty, I think is the word we want to use. So we use those. I have not done San Marzanos, but I'm planning to next year probably. Almost all of these, except for the red snappers, the roadsters, and the eggplants, they all are from our seed store. So if you want some of that, check the link below. The little backyard gardens icon at the end of the video will take you there and you can get some of those seeds. So we sell all those, and they are all seeds that we from the Backyard Gardens podcast grow and have tried and really enjoy to grow. Batavia has grown Cherokee purple and enjoyed them. I don't, so there's that. So now I got a top with perlite, and this just helps with them growing, helps keep the seeds moist so they don't rot, and gives them airflow and allows them to push out easier. But to the up potting portion of the video, you know, when I was early on in my seed starting life, I lived to up pot everything. It didn't matter what it was up potting. And I still do for my peppers, I do for my tomatoes and eggplants. And that's really about it. And the reason why is because peppers will be a little bit finicky. They take a long time to grow, so we want to get those as big as possible. And the tomatoes, I mean, for peppers, honestly, it's literally, sometimes it just seems like it's a race to get a decent flush of peppers. For the tomatoes, though, it's a race to get the earliest harvest so that we can, in turn around and have a second planting. So we did not do that last year, and I really regretted it. So we're going to do it this year. And the way I do it is I don't start any more seeds. I just propagate from the plants that I already have. So we'll take some cuttings, we'll make some more plants, and we'll do a second planting when it's time. And then those will get up potted as well. Now, if you're doing stuff that's like a really fast grower, for instance, next month, you're going to see a totally different kind of seed starting and a totally different conversation from me about the time frames for these plants to go in. And we're going to use that to our advantage, but we don't want to up pot those. We want to just time those out right. So everything in gardening really comes down to timing. And a lot of you, I know from the comments, and you know, if you have had issues with timing, or let me rephrase that, if you've nailed timing, let us know what you've nailed down and what you want to work on this year in the comments below, because a lot of people that I've heard and seen and read and talked to, they've really figured out the timing portion of it. So that is something that you can really do and make this something that is very, very productive, and up potting falls directly into that category. So I should give you some plants that I wouldn't up pot real quick. So I wouldn't up pot any of the cool season vegetables. Typically speaking, they don't need them. And if it's a root vegetable that you're starting inside, which generally isn't a good idea, but we all do it, and you know, by all means, it's not always the best idea, and you can actually hinder the growth in the future from that plant. So it's best not to up pot those. The other things are stuff like your squashes and melons and all that good stuff. It's just really a select few. And by not understanding what to up pot, you actually do a couple things. You save yourself in materials, so you don't need as much smaller pots, or I guess larger pots, to up pot in. You're getting your timing right, you're getting your vegetables in at the right time. And also, a really, really big one and important one is you don't waste space on your seed starting shelf. So let me show you what I mean by that. I typically use these 50 cell trays. They work really well. I can get a lot more in. The same footprint in 6-packs, I can get 36 plants. With this, I can get 50 plants. Now, when I go to up pot these, this is a holder for my pots. I use these. So let's just take this, and you can see it holds it in so I can transport around, move them around easily. This only holds 28 pots. Okay, so if you look at it, and this is just, I'm not trying to get technical, but roughly each one of these trays would become 2 trays. Yeah, I know it'd be a little bit more, but you get what I'm saying. So whereas my seed shelf will hold 4 10 by 20 trays. Okay, these are 10 inch by 20 inch, 4 of these trays. Once I do this, this is also 10 by 20, then those 4 would take up 2 shelves, and then so on and so forth. So you can see it's a really big issue. Now, timing your up potting is really, really important, and there's a couple ways you can do that. We're gonna have to put our imagination caps on and just work with me here. So your plant grows, and usually they get about yay tall, right? and they'll have a couple sets of true leaves. This is the point in which I would start to really think about up potting and getting prepared to do that. But what really needs to come into effect is the time in the seedling's life in your house, in your seed starting shelf, whatever, in which you want to do it. So this is where the timing comes in. So when that plant gets about yay tall, it's just about ready, if not ready, to go outside at that point. Now this is where we start managing our seed starting shelf, and we start saying like, hey, we're going to, by the time that happens, there's a couple things going on. So one, at that time, we're gonna have to up pot 2 trays of peppers and 2 trays of tomatoes and eggplants, these 2 trays here. So that's going to turn into 4 trays. But at the same time, we're going to be taking stuff out. So the way it should be working is we're rotating our seed starting shelf and we're getting things out. For instance, right now as we speak, I'm hardening off everything really that I started except for my peppers. So my broccoli and cabbage are outside, my lettuce and rutabagas are outside, and my Napa cabbages and something else I can't remember off the top of my head, they're all outside. So one shelf that was completely full is now empty. So now we can start putting stuff up there. Now at the time when this happens, this is going to be right around, it's February 1st-ish. So right around 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. I go usually about 8 weeks, maybe 7. It'll be right around April 1st. We still have 14 days to our last frost date. With that being said, that time frame right then is we will have warm weather for sure, but we are in the absolute danger zone and we will get another frost. So what I do is around April 1st, I look at the weather, and if it's looking good and it's looking decent, by the way, I'm in coastal North Carolina and today it is 58 degrees, tomorrow it's going to be 70. So, and it's going to drop again. So we would look at it and say, okay, it's time to repot. We would take them out, we would start hardening them off, right? We'd get them going, hardening off. And then we still have a couple weeks until we need to put them out. So then we can up pot then. We could up pot a week before if we have enough space. That's ultimately what I would like to do, is a week before I move them outside, I'd like to up pot them if I have the space, let them grow inside for a week and get comfortable, and then move them out. That's always the goal, but that doesn't always happen. This is where a tray like this, which you would think is wasteful to have, that holds these pots, but when it comes time to shuffle these around, hardening off 4, 5, 8 trays is what we would have, then we have to be able to move them easily, and this helps us do that. If we get a freeze one night, we can bring it in, keep them inside until they're nice and protected, bring them out. We can then move them into the greenhouse if we want to and protect them, but this is all how we manage this whole space and use up potting to our advantage, because once you up pot this, what you're doing is you're introducing a little bit of stress. So the goal will absolutely be to just not really mess with any of the roots or anything. You just want to kind of pick it up and do it, up pot it, and then move on. But then we want to let it recover. And you don't want to just up pot it and then put it in the garden. So you kind of got to play with a little bit, and that's really important that we do that. We play with it, we figure it out, and then we move on to that, and then we go from there. And I mean, at this point, like, a lot of people are really rushing to get their plants in the ground. Wow, it's really bright out here. Holy moly. So at that point, you know, even if it is warm enough and you don't have space in your garden opened up, like some of this garden, you know, the beds may not be quite ready. Because we've just recently up potted them, we still have time for those roots to grow some more. So we're still moving in the right direction. Instead of up potting them a month before, our roots will start wrapping around and getting, you know, they will be root bound. At that point, I was thinking of the term. And then you're kind of rushing to get in, but by holding off, you still are growing and going in the right direction. You can give them some fertilizer, because once you move them outside, they go up. A huge mistake, huge, and I might need some help. I grow every year. I grow these husk tomatoes. I call them husk tomatoes, but the common world calls them ground cherries. And I don't have any seeds. Here's my plea. I'm gonna look and see if I can find some stuff that fell last year and I can get some seeds. But if one of y'all has any ground cherry seeds or anything like that that you know are ground cherry seeds, and you feel generous enough to send them to me, please, there's a P.O. box down below. Throw them in an envelope and put a 50-cent, whatever stamps cost now. And please, I would love to have some, because those are my favorites. We eat those by the handful, and I don't have time to get seeds now. So if anybody has those, I'm going to try and find some laying around here. I'm going to go through those little pieces and parts that fell. We had a lot of volunteers last year, so I may be able to save it that way, but I don't want to count on it because I'm not sure. My two options are here and then actually in this pot up here. So we're gonna go check and see if I can find some seeds, but I'm hurting because my son absolutely loves them. Anytime you got a child that loves to eat some kind of vegetable, you definitely got to grow it. And it ain't looking good. Not looking good at all. Well, we'll have to figure it out. And actually, ground cherries need to be started just a little bit later and need to be planted just a little bit later too. So keep that in mind as you're doing it. If you've never grown them, please, it's like a pineapple. It tastes like a pineapple. You pick them all the time. When they fall off the plant, you don't pick them off the plant, and they are delicious. And we made jam out of them one year. That was stunning. So just remember that. And the final watering. Now, while I'm watering these, remember this, tomatoes can definitely benefit from bottom heat, and especially those eggplants, they will really speed up the germination. And when I'm doing this, because I lay the seed right on top, even if you bury them, you do it that way, you don't want the seed cell to fill up at all, because that'll just kind of shift the seed around and can actually surface it. So I just want to take your time, do little sprays, get them wet. And remember, we've already got the seed wet, or the soil, so right now we're just wetting the seed and just ensuring that it's damp. And then once they pop up, we'll give them about a week, and then we'll give them a shot of fertilizer, and then we'll be off to the races. And that beautiful, beautiful smell of tomatoes growing in your house is just, it's amazing. It's a sign that it is getting ready to be time. So we'll get these going, give them some bottom heat, cover them, we'll water them in about a week, then we'll fertilize them probably about 2 weeks later, and then we'll up pot them probably about 3 to 4 weeks after that. And this is perfect scenario, remember. Then we'll move them outside, we'll grow them, we'll protect them from the frost, bring them inside if there's a frost, then our frost date will come, and then we'll probably still hold off about another week before we plant them, unless the forecast just looks beautiful. And then we're good to go. So there's a lot to it, but at the same time, if you're just new to starting seeds or anything like that, like tomatoes are really rewarding because you get a lot off of them. And this right here, we're gonna sell a lot of these probably and donate some, but we will get all from 4 Roma tomatoes, we will get all of the tomatoes we need to can for the whole year for sauces and everything like that, and to eat all the bruschetta we ever wanted.